All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Any questions on last week's assignment? No.
No.
Not really.
I think I've graded all of yours. I've got two still sitting in the inbox because I've got questions on them. But outside of that, I think you guys did a pretty good job for what that assignment actually is. Was my feedback more along the lines what you all were looking for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
And
I didn't get a chance to see mine yet. Just got home from work, so
okay,
I'll email you if I have any questions.
great. I'll always email. Really, probably the best way to reach me is through text because my email, for me to get email, it's not like the rest of my email. It doesn't come to my computer. I actually have to log in. But if you text me, you'll get a much quicker response.
Okay. Not a problem.
Right. But how I went through with that feedback, that's generally how I do it on the papers. Now, the discussions are always going to be a little bit different. Sometimes I'll put you a note in there. Sometimes I'll make an inline comment. But the papers, generally, I download, read it, put the comments in, and then upload them from there. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So let's, before I actually talk about this week, the topic for this week, I want to talk about the assignment and the discussion. Okay. So let's start with the assignment first. Again, I approach these assignments from a practical perspective in how we can use the topic and use it for you all now. And so if we look at what's being asked, I can break it down for you probably as about as simple as this. I want to know who the public is, which individual public that is, and if you go back to some of the feedback that I gave you guys, I want to be a little bit more specific in what those publics are. Okay. What information are you going to communicate with them? How you're going to communicate it, and if there's any like standard information like schedule or things that happen over and over again, when that's going to occur. Okay. So like, for example, if you've got I'll just use this, a set practice schedule, and you want to remind them each week, okay, practice is, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at this time, Wednesday and Friday it's at this time. When are you going to send that information out? Okay. So
that's interesting because I know with the Tamarack Community Center for many of their youth sports, they practice at virtually the same time every week, and they play almost the same time every week.
Yes, and that's generally how things are going to be. But we always get a much better response if we can reach out and touch them, the parents, the kids, the community, whatever it is, and even if it's something that happens on a regular basis, to jog their memory, to remind them, whatever that may be.
Although during the regular season, every week there's a junior basketball game that's broken down into 4 divisions. There's a junior basketball game that plays at 10 o'clock at another gym. So that is something else.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to know who the public is, what information you're going to share, how you're going to share it, and when. That's really kind of how I want that assignment broken out.
Wait, say it again. Wait, who the public is.
Who the public is. What information you're going to share. How you're going to share it. And when you're going to share it. Okay, so if you think about it from a broader perspective, okay, you may be sharing the same type of information to 2 different publics in different ways, right? And you kind of what this week is about is organizational media and how we create messages. So that's kind of why this is set up the way that it is. So for example, You want to communicate information about a game schedule. You're going to communicate to parents in these ways, but you also may want to incorporate electronic media, not social media, but electronic media, and that could be, I use radio and TV as electronic media because even though it's broadcast, a lot of that stuff is still electronic as well. So it's the same information, different publics, different ways. Okay. Make sense?
Yep.
So that's the assignment. That's what I'm looking for. And again, that can be something that it's not necessarily a narrative. It can be listed, it can be bulleted, it can be tabled. Because again, it's the way that it's written. It asks for a narrative, but that's not really what I'm looking for. If you write it as a narrative, that's fine. But from a more practical perspective for what you all are trying to do and what I want you guys to do, a narrative doesn't necessarily fit that. Okay. And also remember with assignments, every assignment, you've got to have references and they need to be in APA 6th edition format.
My bugaboo.
That's all right. As long as it only happens once, right?
No, not with me.
I understand that too, but it won't happen twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the Kenny Chesney song, "Just Don't Happen Twice."
Yeah, if you don't mind, I've redone that. I just want to send it back to you to make sure that I'm on the right track because I had trouble with the different types of formats.
Yeah, but yeah,
I haven't done research in 30 years or doing stuff for 30 years.
I understand. It's all good. And the one thing that I tell students all the time is the big thing with citing references is it's following a format. It sounds like it's simple, but it's not as simple as it sounds because especially with the many different ways that we can cite the same type of or the same article or the same whatever it is. It really depends on where we get it, on where we actually retrieve it from. So for example, we could cite a journal article probably 3 different ways. In other words, if we get it from the hard copy source, that's one way. If we go to our library and get it electronically, so let's just say our library has the online version of it, that's a different way. If we get it, say that we download it from Eric or Sport Discus, that's a third way. Same information, same article can be cited 3 different ways. That's where the where the attention to detail and those types of things kind of come into play. All right. So it's all good, and we'll.
And although I have the manual right here.
Oh, and it's tough. Because I reference it all the time. So it is what it is. But
yeah.
We'll get you there. Okay, so the discussion for this week, it seems to me that what the discussion is actually asking you is out of sequence. The information that they want you to do really comes in next week's readings and so forth. So when it talks about the policies, okay, what I want you all to do is give me the policies that, organizations set policies for their media and how the media actually interact with the organization so that it's civil is not necessarily the word I'm looking for, but it's smooth so that the media knows when they have access to certain people, whether it be coaches, whether it be players, whether it be administrators. What are the policies for covering getting credentials for a given event? That's really what I want you all to talk about in that discussion.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
What would be a good example, maybe? Not saying that we would use it, but what would be a good example for us?
Okay, so an example would be credentials. Credentials need to be requested 72 hours in advance for any event, and then explain why that would be why you need to have that as a policy. And that's primarily so that we can, number one, we can make sure that we have sufficient space, make sure that this person can be vetted, that they're actually a media member, those different types of things.
Similarly with access to coaches and athletes themselves.
Right. And some of those reasons are to make sure that it doesn't conflict with a student athlete schedule. Make sure that the coach is not interfering with practice times or meeting times or recruiting times or whatever those individuals have going on. And again, those are just some of the there's many that you can pull from that are out there. But again, it's I'm looking for you to explain why you would have those policies. Make sense?
No problem.
All right, so if we look at this week's content, I would say the set of PowerPoints that really for me that I think are important is the one that's the impact of media and technology. And if you look at slides 11 and 12, we have to understand that PR is a function of marketing, but we can't have marketing without PR, and we can't have PR without marketing. They have to be done together. They have to be done in a way that they complement each other, and that we make sure that we're sending the same messages from the public relations department and the marketing department, so that the messages really are seamless, and that the individual public have, and I'm air quotes here again, a difficult time deciphering what's PR and what is actually marketing. So if you look at slides 11 and 12 and those 7 different tactics, I think that those are very important. And then if you go down to slide 24, that same set of PowerPoints, there are three different ways that organizations interact with media. And they are the reactive, the proactive, and the interactive. Anytime that we're being reactive, we're always behind the 8 ball. It doesn't really matter what it is. And we just so happen to be talking about public relations, media relations here. Probably the best way to go about engaging with the media is having that interactive approach. The idea that we actually work with different media outlets, so that not that we are influencing the way that they cover our organization, but if we have a good relationship with that whatever media outlet it is, we have a much better opportunity to get positive media coverage from them. Now, that being said, with the way that media has evolved over, really the last 15, 20 years, organizations rely a whole lot less on the traditional media, whether that be, the print media, newspapers, radio, newspapers, magazines, broadcast, electronic media being, radio and television, etc. For example.
Excuse me 1 second. Dylan, can I ask you a favor and mute your microphone while you're typing, because I can barely hear what he's saying over that.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
All right. So again, if we look back over how media has actually changed over the last 15 years, organizations don't rely on traditional media the way that they used to, whether that be print media or broadcast or electronic media, with radio and television. Now organizations can go right to the public, and when I say public, meaning the general population, with all of their messages, and can actually bypass their traditional medias. Now, we still need them. We still need to work with them and incorporate them into our plan. But they're a much smaller part today than they were 15 years ago. And probably the best example of that is the idea of a press release. We still do press releases, but they're becoming something that's almost obsolete. So we have to look at media relations from where are we now, and how are we going to and be creative, especially with most of the things that we're actually doing. We're doing them on a shoestring type of budget. So we're not going to have a whole lot of money to go out and do a radio campaign or a newspaper advertisement or magazine advertisement or TV campaign. We just don't have the money to do it, but we need to figure out a way to get the results that we want and spend as little money as possible. All right. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
So what questions do you have?
Got anything, Justin?
No, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around everything. I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. Or at least the way you explain it seems pretty straightforward. I don't know if I would have understood it that well if I just read it, but after hearing it, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, I think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think the PowerPoint sometimes they're very helpful, but they don't really explain some of the nuances of the actual, what we're actually doing now. I think they're good. It gives you a little bit of history, but it doesn't really help you in actually going and developing and implementing the plan. Again, my screen just stopped on media guides. We don't really do media guides, traditional media guides anymore. They're all electronic.
Mm-hmm.
Guides were originally done to give the media information about our teams. Now all that information is readily available. Now they're more of a marketing piece, and they're not even printed anymore. They're all electronic.
Yeah.
I mean, almost everything we do otherwise through our department is that way. I mean, it's all electronic, with the exception of outreach to some of the media outlets directly.
Right. And then, so they'll either pick it up or they won't. I don't know. I don't even read a hard paper anymore. I get all my news electronically. So I don't even know how thick the papers are, because if I want to know something, I pull up the newspapers and I read the sections I want to read, and that's that.
Yeah, it's a dying industry.
It is. Yep.
What you did earlier by explaining the assignment and refining what you want.
Yes.
It's probably one of the most helpful things that we've had other teachers who have really concentrated on that, and sometimes even gone off the board completely and said, listen, I know what they're asking, but it doesn't really apply. So in the future, I think that's very, very helpful.
Okay, good. Then as we go forward, that's one thing that I'll make sure that we touch on every week.
Yeah. For the discussion, should we look ahead to the PowerPoints for next week to kind of get a better idea of what we're saying, or should we just kind of stick to what you were asking for and not really worry about those so much?
Well, let me pull up those PowerPoints real quick. Bear with me. That's week 4.
Looks like there's quite a few. 3.
Yeah.
I can't access them.
The second one, managing the sport organization, media relationship, that may have something. Let me see here.
9 slides.
Okay, yeah. So that on slide 4, 5, 6. 7. Yeah. So that's the one that really kind of goes into what that discussion should be.
Okay.
Are we kind of, with this assignment, are we kind of staying with the specific organization we're talking about, or is this in general? Is this more a general, policies that would encompass everything at my university, for instance?
Okay, so the discussion can be either. It doesn't really matter. But the assignment should be your organization that you're doing the plan for.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, that's all I've got for tonight. I hope you guys have a good week, and I'll talk to you next Monday.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hey, guys. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye.